So we're going to call to order Town of Fontana Dam Town Council meeting for May the 20th, 2020. Call to order time 5:22. Present Sabrina Garrison, Norton Hedrick, Zellery Rogers, Rob Hardy, John Hodgson, Tiffany Duke, and Kevin
Hensley. Oh.
I'm trying.
I felt like you had it that time.
I thought I had it. All right. So our agenda from the 22nd, or let's see, the agenda for today, if anybody has any amendments, adjustments, comments, corrections, otherwise entertaining motions.
I'll make a motion, we approve the agenda as read.
Thanks, Jordan. All in favor? The April minutes from the 22nd, as well as the continued meeting on May the 6th, where we didn't really have any new information.
And the May 13th as well.
Well, and the May 13th as well. We've got three different minutes, two of which are just due to lack of quorum. We didn't actually hold it. If anybody sees anything that needs to be corrected, certainly now's the time to mention it. Otherwise, when everyone's ready, entertaining motions.
While you're looking that over, I'll look at something real quick.
I'll make a motion to approve the April and continued minutes.
Thanks, John. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. That brings us to our public comment.
So I made that
We
motion.
have John. Yeah, John made the motion.
Ooh,
How's things going over on the other side of the mountain there, Kevin?
that's a good question. There's a lot of interesting developments going on this week. So our sheriff announced yesterday that he will not stop people from dining in at restaurants they'd like. So a lot of that's trying to get built back up. I got some, I'll say, mixed feedback about it. Some
I
business
seen on
owners,
Facebook some of the
yeah,
comments.
some were happy, some were not. Some aren't prepared, obviously, to just fling their doors open right away. So that's having to get built back up. And word on the street is that phase 2 is going to actually happen anyway. So this would have happened this weekend anyway. So I think the sheriff probably beat it by a few days. But I understand why he did. I commend him for it. It was for economical reasons. Obviously, a lot of the business owners struggling really bad, and you guys know all about that up here at Fontana too. So, and with that in mind, I know we've heard about all that. Are there any updates that I can ask about the resort, the restaurant, etc.?
Well, we will do some more of that in the.
That's
meeting
fine.
itself.
Yeah, okay.
We will have a section here where we discuss at least what.
Oh, I see that. I'm sorry.
Which
We
is
don't
another
really,
one.
we don't still know 100% anything definitive, but we know we're going in a particular direction.
Okay. All right. Sorry, I missed that on the agenda. That's all I've got though. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Kevin. I guess just for posterity's sake, we are doing something new today.
That's correct.
The live streaming via Facebook, right?
We have 8 viewers right now, actually.
FaceTime?
Yeah, on Facebook.
Facebook.
Yeah.
We got 8 viewers.
8 viewers. That's correct.
So is this
Oh, out there.
this just goes to Facebook, or are you also going to like later post?
It will post to our Facebook, and I will put it on our YouTube account and our Gramstar.com later tonight too.
Okay, and then we can go on and pull that and put it for our town
Sure.
Facebook.
Absolutely. Yep. You
And
can
we'll-
embed the YouTube link, and you'll be good to go.
Okay.
Perfect.
Oh, you got a link?
Okay, moving to our discussion items. Financial update there. Is that one?
Okay, we have $145,830.71 in the bank. So, not a whole lot of difference, I don't believe, from last month. I mean, a little bit down, but not a whole lot. So, you know, at this point in time, that basically is what is going to have to do us until something happens with the resort. So, having said that, I'll move right into the presentation of the 2021 budget. Somewhere in our package, there is a copy of that, and it's going to be very blank because there's only very few things that we're actually funding. So we'll go over those. We reduced the ad valorem tax to $7,000 because we don't know for sure. We have a couple of people that are wanting to de-annex. You know, we've had it before, like right at 7,400 or something like that. So, you know, I don't know if that'll happen or not, but anyway, we reduced it down in case. We reduced everything down because of sales and use tax and the sales tax refund and franchise tax and all of that, and our motor vehicle license and tax. We just, you know, it's less because we don't have the people that are renewing their vehicle registration in the town as many as we had before. And the sales and use tax and all that stuff across the state is going to be reduced because people haven't traveled as much. So everything is going to be definitely reduced. And then we have a general fund balance transfer. In order to make our budget meet and to be able to handle the administrative side of stuff, we are transferring from our fund balance into general operating funds $71,304. This will give us a budget of, I think, altogether of $84,784 for general operating expenses. We have a budget also for the wastewater plant and water plant of $90,784, which is basically the same as what it was last year. The difference is that we cannot afford after June 30th to make any payments for anything there. So whoever or whatever, however the resort moves forward from this point, they're going to have to pick that up. However, whatever our new norm is going to be from this point forward, they're going to have to pick that expense up until we start getting user fees again and can do it ourselves again.
And I just wanted to make this comment. Perhaps we should have actually given the resort update beforehand because this 2021 proposed budget, it reflects some assumptions that are being made. Essentially, right now, we are assuming no user fee input whatsoever at this point in time, based on the indications we're seeing. So I just wanted to say that. I'll provide a few more details. I don't really know many, but so that's why we're just looking at our general tax revenue, and that's really about it. And administration side, we're not going to have any maintenance, at least at this point in time.
Or sanitation. I'm still going to apply for the Powellville money, but you know, and if we have enough in reserves that if something like if we do need to do any kind of repair to roads or patching or stuff like that, which most of that comes through, you know, salt and stuff in the winter time. But if we do need to do any of that, we can always contract that out, you know, because we have enough in there to do that, to pay somebody to come over here if we are not able to bring back our regular guy.
We were generally advised from our LGC meeting the end of last week where we had a conference call. They basically said, you know, set it with the assumptions that you have now, which are going to be less than our normal budget, and then we can, if we see some changes, then we can introduce a budget amendment and we can bring that up. It's better to go from low to high as opposed to, you know, the reverse in their estimation. So do you want to read that, or do you want to?
Yes, I can read the budget message that I prepared, or you can read it. You read it.
All right. The fiscal year 2021 budget message for the town of Fontana Dam, North Carolina. to the mayor and honorable council members, this budget marks the beginning of the 10th year of existence for the Town of Fontana Dam. Just as in previous years, it is important to note this is a significant achievement given the unique situation of the town, sitting almost entirely on federal property, with the resort also occupying most of that property. These characteristics have proven to be challenging, not only for the town in receiving grants, but also for the state agencies that monitor us. In addition, we are facing one of the biggest challenges to date in the COVID-19 virus. This virus and the state and federal government's reactions and guidelines to it have put the town in a precarious position due to the enforced closure of the resort. As you know, the town operates through billed monthly user fees. It is still unclear in what capacity the resort is going to operate going forward. So this means this year's budget is currently comprised almost entirely of unrestricted general fund monies. The town continues to seek out ways to expand its revenue sources, but without property, other businesses, or more residents to improve grant opportunities, we are very limited in what we can do. Our dependency upon the resort to operate has never been clear. For the budget proposed here, the appropriations are again premised on line item estimates, but each chart is the sum of several line items, providing more manageable account totals. The budget only reflects the departments that will be in operation while the resort is closed. If the resort opens back up, the town will renegotiate a contract price to bring back other departments and adjust the budget accordingly. So in the general fund revenues, we have the ad valorem tax. The town collects taxes on a couple of annex properties and on the personal property of the resort. We can only budget what has been collected. Although the town collected over $10,000 last year, we only budgeted a little over $7,000. The excess amount was from back payments that had not been paid since the town was able to collect ad valorem tax. We also have a couple of properties that are wanting to de-annex from the town. That will reduce the amount collected even more. As such, the town reduced the expected amount by $360. We currently have budgeted $7,000 in ad valorem taxes with a millage rate of 0.554. PILT. Because the town includes TVA tax-exempt property, it is eligible to receive payments in lieu of taxes, or PILT, from the federal government. PILT monies are distributed from the North Carolina Department of Revenue, and the town was eligible to receive payments starting October 2011. The amount of PILT monies a town is entitled to depends on the TVA's investment in that property situated in the town. Given that Fontana Dam's town limits include no powerhouses, substations, or other significant pieces of infrastructure, the Department of Revenue estimated that the town is eligible to receive 0.5% of the PILT monies allocated for Graham County as a whole. Initially, the town's PILT payments were approximately $368 a month. However, the Department of Revenue has since recalculated distributions for PILT monies and concluded that if the town was indeed entitled to any of the funds, it was limited to approximately $10 to $12 a month for a yearly total of approximately $191. That amount has been reduced even further and continues to decline each year. For the 2018-2019 budget cycle, the town only received $80.75 in a one-time payment from the Department of Revenue. There has been a discussion of going to Raleigh to talk with the DOR and try and increase the amount for the town. But researching earlier conversations between the town and the DOR doesn't appear to make this a viable option. User fees. With the resort currently closed, there can be no expectation of income from user fees. This money is a monthly billed amount the resort pays the town to collect trash, recyclables, keep roads clear and patched, lighting repaired and maintained, winter road maintenance, etc. It primarily covers administrative and governing body expenses. For this budget, the money for those costs will come from the town's fund balance. PAL bill distribution. Restricted to road maintenance and upkeep, our portion of the Powell bill distribution increased slightly last year with the addition of Fontana Campground Road. This money can only be used for upkeep of the town's roads. We have approximately $23,000 in reserve and are eligible for $6,581 in Powell bill distribution for this budget cycle. Administrative and governing body expenses. Salaries and incidental payroll costs are commonly the biggest expenses for a municipality. For the Town of Fontana Dam, the salary estimates for the council members has changed slightly to more closely resemble the protocol of other small towns. Instead of being paid for every meeting attended, council will now be paid $150 per month, regardless of the number of meetings they attend. The mayor will be paid $225 a month, regardless of the number of meetings as well. All are expected to attend the monthly council meetings and, if possible, other meetings that might encourage, support, or represent the town's best interest. There are no raises built into the budget for this fiscal year due to several factors, but mainly because of the insecurity of the resort's existence. The town administrator, finance payroll officer, and the town council are currently the only budgeted employees of the town. Costs related to education for public officials and administrators have also been put on hold. The town simply does not have the funds to provide anything other than the necessities needed to keep the town in operation. Other administrative expenses include the annual audit expense, postage fees, and insurance. Publication costs are also included as the state mandates many instances in which a town is required to provide notice of its actions to the public. General maintenance. There are no general maintenance fees at the moment. Solid waste and collection and disposal and recycling. There are no sanitation fees at the moment. Street maintenance, construction, and lighting. The only money available at this time for these line items are related to Powell bill funding. This means any funds used for improvements or replacement must follow Powell bill requirements. General fund balance transfer. The town has been very careful with this money the last couple of years and has built up a fund balance to carry through this fiscal year, providing nothing major happens and another entity, the resort or TVA, pick up the costs associated with the water, wastewater plants. In summary, this year is the hardest the town has faced thus far. So much of the town's survival is dependent on what happens with the resort and when this happens. The mayor and town administrator have been in touch with the Local Government Commission, or LGC, to make them aware of the difficulties the town is facing. They will be working with us to ensure we stay in compliance. It is our hope and determination to make it through this, but there are a lot of unknowns. Thank you for preparing that well.
Certainly. Great news, right?
Yeah, we've had to essentially pare things down to bare bones, and the bare bones right now is Celery and us, and we've essentially projected that we think for the coming budget year we can make it through if we avoid any non-budgeted items. I think we can make it through.
And if somebody is paying...
Yeah, and then there's obviously we cannot afford to fund the water and wastewater treatment plants. We're going to have to certainly have some assistance, help, customers. That's a fluid situation. But as far as the administration side of the town is concerned, we do have monies in the fund balance to make that happen for approximately 1 year. So we would think until, I guess, the end of June 2021. So, with that said, we can, I guess, briefly discuss the LGC conversation that we had on, when was that?
That was Friday. That's right.
And it was myself, Zell, Willamay, the finance officer, and also Jeff Morse, our consultant for the town. He was, we were all on call with
Sharon Edmondson
Sharon Edmondson
and a couple of other people that are with the LGC.
we basically wanted to make them aware of what was going on. They said they were very concerned about us and had us kind of on a watch list. They wanted to just touch base with us and see where we're at with regard to the health of the resort and how that affects us, and generally how this COVID-19 had been affecting us. We also wanted to make them aware that, there was a myriad of possibilities in the coming year. And the end result is they are advising us in the proper manner. We're looking at some agreements right now to see, legally what we,
With the water and wastewater plants, because the town owns utilities, and so, that's separate from the resort, TVA, whatever happens going forward, so. They're helping, I've got to send them contracts and stuff so they can look at all the legalese and just to make sure that we stay where we're supposed to stay, because, let's face it, none of us are lawyers or, really administrative. So, in these kinds of things, so.
We're going to be working with them, I think, on a monthly basis. They're going to be checking in with us, and they'll kind of see where we're at, any concerns that we were investigating. Hopefully we can gather a more definitive picture of what they need from us and the direction that we're headed. Any questions about the LGC? They basically oversee us. For anybody that might not know, they are our oversight here in the state.
And North Carolina actually is the only state, I think, in the United States that has a commission that oversees municipalities. So, we could not go out and get a loan because we only have one source of funding, and the LGC has to get permission for a loan to take place. And so they put us, before this ever happened even. So I don't think other states, they don't have that kind of, if we were in a different state, we could have gone out and probably just because based on the municipality, we could get a loan, but we can't do that here. So they are very good about governing towns and making sure everybody stays in compliance. So,
Is there a timetable for the water payment deferments? Like when you guys are going to cease doing that?
Oh, you mentioned.
we have in our budget, we have budgeted so far, not that, we feel like we can go through the end of the fiscal year in keeping up the payments down there. But
Okay.
now, of course, we're contracted through the resort for for our ORC that operates down there.
Right.
So this is but this is the chemicals, the analysis, or we have somebody that comes in at least 1 day a week to give him, 2 days a week here lately, those kinds of things. So
Yep.
we figure we can follow through till June 30th.
Okay.
But starting the new fiscal year, we haven't budgeted anything for down
But
there.
does that answer your question?
Yeah,
Or were you asking, I didn't know if you were talking about deferments for.
Like the customers,
Right.
a few months ago, you guys
Right.
said the customers didn't have to pay
That's
their
what
bill
I was
for a while.
thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
Whatever.
sorry.
Yeah. No, it's okay.
I'm totally wrong.
But that answers another question I had, so that helped.
Well, I think June 1st is that restriction is supposed to lift as far as not being able to cut off water. Or,
Okay.
that Governor Cooper has said right now that's when the executive order is supposed to end.
Right.
In which case, we have several people that have kept up, but there are a couple that haven't, and we will contact them and try to make payment arrangements.
Sure.
Because we don't want to turn off anybody's water,
course.
especially right now. Nobody's working. But most people probably, with the exception of Sabrina, is getting their unemployment by now. So hopefully, we can sit down and work something out.
Sure.
In
Okay.
regards to that.
All right.
Yeah. So June billing, I think, is going to probably go forward.
That's planned.
as-
Because
as it normally-
our bill does not go out until June 15th anyway, so
All right. Thank you.
that should be fine.
So, over the course of sort of buttoning up our 2019-2020 budget and looking at amendments to shift funding based on lack of user fees and lack of spending on maintenance and
And sanitation.
garbage sanitation, Zell noticed that she was operating on an old pay scale, I think from, what, 1819, I believe. She hadn't submitted for the raise that we approved her last year.
And I think the reason for that is because at the time that President Trump came in, you know, the taxes reduced, and so I was getting more on my paycheck, and for some reason I must have assumed, and Willow May overlooked it too. So for the whole entire year, I've been paid an old base rate. So at the end of June, the last pay period in June, we're going to make that current. And I wanted you guys all to know that because, you know, I like to be open about everything. I don't want anybody to think I'm, you know, doing anything wrong there. I mean, you know, the raise and the budget reflects that amount of money.
And I think it wasn't it you and Willa May that were meeting to look at the budget?
Yeah,
not only for
Monday.
Coming year,
Yeah.
but for the this year, and you both kind of noticed, or she noticed it?
Well, no, it was like when we were looking at the budget, you know, when we're trying to, we have a working budget in here, that for this current year. And in that, when you get, you know, we're projecting at the end of June 30th what we're gonna have left, and there was money left in my administrative fee. And it's like that should zero out because that should be an exact, you know, we know exactly how many paydays there are. So that should be exact. So it's like, why have we got extra money in here? Where does that come from? So that's how that was discovered. It was like we went back and started looking, and it's like, oh, this race hasn't been was never put into
It'll come at a
account.
nice time. It's a-
Yeah.
Yeah. So with the council's support approval, you know, we're going to make that valid there.
Well, since we already voted before to give her the raise, I don't feel like there's any action necessary. I think it's just, it was just an
It's just a
accounting
matter of
oversight,
adjustment.
and
Yeah.
we'll make the adjustment, and we'll be back to where we thought we were.
And before we move on to the COVID, I think we should go to that the budget in
Yes,
progress and
yes.
look at that briefly, just so you guys can kind of get it. It's
So that'll
very
be
small.
That'll be the first one after the,
Now, we did some adjustment on this, so it should reflect, this should be like current, which would include
it's got a lot
the
of stuff
raise.
on that side too. So just look for 1920 up here.
So you can, now this is a working budget, so you can see what we had budgeted, maybe. The budget amendment, which is money that either, like up here in the income, the money that we collected that was over the amount, that $3,283.88 was because we had that one property up there in the Heights that we'd never been able to collect property tax on, and they sold it, so the people that sold it had to bring that current, so they paid us. So we were able to collect that. Everything else is, that just all reflects the overages, and there was one place, the Powellville distribution, that we overestimated, so that was less, and then of course the user fees from the resort, we didn't get to collect $100,000 of that, and then we have non-expended appropriations. That is the money that we pull from the budget out of the maintenance and sanitation and the things that we're no longer doing, so we're not paying. Because we're not paying the salary, we're not paying for any of that. So that's what that money is. And then of that, $19,000 was appropriated to put into this budget to keep everything balanced. So you guys you can look over that. You can see the budget amendments going down. And at the end, the remaining balance is what we have and the total expenses. So that's pretty self-explanatory.
We won't be looking to pass that budget amendment, I believe, till next meeting, correct?
Right.
So-
Yeah, we're gonna, well, because next meeting we'll zero everything
Yeah,
out.
yeah. We just have to do this essentially for accounting and auditing purposes. You just kind of, I guess you just reconcile things, you know.
Well, you have to keep it running in account because we're not supposed to show a negative balance in any of our expenses. So, but the finance officer has the authority to move line item money around. And then at the end, or if, you know, it's sometime twice, 3 times a year, a budget amendment is done that shows where those line items were moved from.
We were doing pretty good, I think, until, you know, the COVID-19 hit, and I think that's throwing a lot of people for a loop. I mean, it's not business as usual by a long shot. All right, does anybody have any questions about the budget amendment for 1920? I mean, you can certainly have a look at it, and if you have any questions, certainly contact myself or Zell, and we can look at it further.
And also, like with the proposed budget for the next year, I'll be contacting you, Kevin, to put advertisement in the paper, and it'll be on display basically here for anybody who wants to question it, look at it, whatever. So as you guys look at it more, if you have any questions that come up, then feel free to talk to me about it.
Okay. So we'll move to this COVID-19 update as it affects the resort and the town. It's been interesting. Seems like every week, every week we thought we were possibly going to have information, and then we were told maybe next week. So that precipitated us having, a couple of meetings we thought were going to occur. Just, we decided just not to hold them and just, we kept kicking the can down the road, giving ourselves an opportunity to meet if something should happen. Now that the landscape seems to be changing and businesses are being allowed to reopen, we're in phase 1 currently and hopefully going to move to phase 2. That's good news for a lot of businesses out there, and we would hope that would be good news for the resort. However, it seems like COVID-19 has made things almost impossible, it would appear, for the resort. We don't have anything definitive, but there were a couple of meetings, I think, last week with the TVA, and the resort has been exploring the possibility of not proceeding with the lease.
Or at least
I hear a lot of
negotiating.
language, and I don't really know. There's negotiation, but I think generally speaking, we've moved forward in our assumption as the town in trying to read between the lines and trying to understand is we're moving forward that there may be some transition that occurs in the future. We don't really know what that's going to look like. We know it will certainly involve the TVA as they own the property. But exactly what will happen with the current lease with the resort is unclear, and if there will be a new lessee in the future is also unclear. It would appear that we may be working with TVA more so going forward and trying to make them aware of the complexities of the town, the resort, and we're all intertwined here with we control the utilities, we administer the utilities, but we don't really have the funding to do that. So very unique situation.
Resort.
Without someone else, the real issue here is we don't own the property and we aren't getting paid any payment in lieu of tax to amount to anything, as you heard in that. If we could receive a nice chunk of PILT, or we could have normal property tax funding the town, we would be in a different situation. So we have really been trying to get creative, but ultimately I think where we're going to have to start here is we're going to have to develop some more dialogue with the TVA going forward, and that is our intention. We're hoping that the resort, TVA, and the town can have a conference call next week, and we can move forward. But again, we're in a holding pattern, but I think with the budget coming up, we're kind of getting backed into a corner, and we have to start making some assumptions based on our best guess. And I don't want to speak for the resort, but we're moving in our direction, and so I don't know what more to say really. Any questions there? I mean, I know you guys, as far as living, as far as jobs, I would say my best advice would be consult with Meredith and ask her for an honest assessment, and go from there.
We have no control over that anyway. as
We
far
really
as
don't,
that.
and I don't want to pretend to speak for the resort. I don't think anything would happen immediately. I think there have been some, the subject has been raised, and I don't think that it would happen like, you know, you've got a couple of days or whatever, you know. I think every concession would be made, but again, we've got TV,
And there's
we've got
also
the resort
the-
involved, so
There's also the fact that we have to have residents in order to function as a town too, because we have to have council members, you know.
yes.
So, and the LGC is checking to see if we can even operate with 3 if that was push comes to shove or something, you know, that we got down to 3, because we are chartered with 5 members. And we figured we could get away with 4 because we were losing Sabrina. Obviously, that's next on the agenda there. So, you know, we probably will not look to fill that for any foreseeable time. But going down to 3, you know, because if somebody had to miss or something, we would not be able to have our meeting, and you got to have a monthly meeting. So,
Any questions there?
so Sabrina's leaving us.
Yes.
Yeah, can we just skip item 3 and just go on? We don't have to do that, right?
So, I know you probably haven't printed out or anything or done any kind of letter of resignation, but you do need to publicly announce it so that it's on the record, yeah.
Publicly announce my resignation, town council member.
We do appreciate your,
Yeah, we do.
the time that you spent with us and, the work that you've done for us, and we hate to lose you, you know, we do.
We certainly understand. You can't live in limbo forever, and you have to kind of move in a direction if you see an opportunity.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And with everything starting to emerge out of this, and we're still kind of stuck in limbo here.
But that doesn't mean you have to be, so.
Opportunity arose, so I kind of had a jump too.
Well, I'm sure I speak for all of us when I say we wish you the best of luck.
Yes.
And we hope that you'll definitely come back and visit with us and, you know,
Most definitely.
yeah. Fontana Lake, we'll call your name, I'm sure.
It's like a siren in there.
Yeah,
Do we want to go ahead and take care of that action item while we're on it?
we can, yes, certainly.
So we are going to need a motion for approval of Sabrina's resignation there. Entertaining motions.
Make a motion to approve Sabrina Garrison's resignation.
Thank you, John. All in favor?
Tiffany, one of these days you're gonna have to make a motion.
I just give them the eye till they do.
All right, so now we've got a water plant update.
So basically, the only thing, you know, Carrie, which is our relief operator down there, and she's been working 2 days a week, but she is the ORC for the Robbinsville, and we're working her to death. So she has got to go back at the end of this month to 1 day a week. I kind of thought Dennis was going to be here today, so you know, that means he's going to have to pick up 6 days. I mean, that's going to be hard on him. You know, that's just because he's ORC at both water plant and wastewater plant, and he has a sick wife. You know, so there's a lot of things that is going on in his life outside of just this. But at this point in time, we just don't have no choice. You know, so we are gonna. She said that if there was an emergency situation, or maybe once a month, she might work 2 days a week to give him a little bit of a break. You know, but that she can't continue to do that every week, and that's understandable. I mean, I think she said that next week she's working like 48 hours in Robbinsville and then 2 days here. So
Yeah,
that's a
she's picking
lot.
up extra
That's a lot.
shifts because I think people are out. They're
Vacations
using, vacation.
and all of this stuff that goes on in a regular plant when you got a lot of people that work there. So,
So
and then
that kind of segues into, you know, with demand being very low as far as water in the resort right now, we're gonna really look to try and get a hold of rural water.
Which I did talk to
Okay.
Keith today.
Yeah.
And he will call me back tomorrow. He is more than willing to come up here. He said he would try his best to get up here next week, and stay a couple of days. So I don't know if I guess I will need to contact Meredith and see if we can put him up at the resort and tell him to bring his own food, I guess, right? Yeah, back at lodge.
We'll supply the bed. You're just gonna bring all
Yeah.
the food. Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna get out and hunt for loss. I'm gonna try to get out there with them, just because I'd like to, see the technical side of it a little bit more. You're using sort of audio monitoring, very sensitive equipment. You're listening for water flow, and where you hear a lot of water flow, if you don't have a lot of usage, you can infer that there's likely loss somewhere in that area. So if we could reduce.
We're still currently operating at 75% water loss right now. And so once everything if the pools start opening back up and we start filling pools and stuff again, people are going to have to work like 12-hour days or more, and then we're looking at just one operator really. That's going to be
So we have an opportunity, according to Carrie, if we could be experiencing some normal losses, we could, we would be running a lot less. Our cost in general, whether it be our labor cost
Everything.
or our chemical cost and our testing cost, would all go down significantly. The problem is, we're just dealing with a 70-year-old or thereabout distribution system that some of them have been fixed, but we're going to have to really try to, even if we can just identify an area, a section that we could potentially
Right,
put
that's
in
what I
as
was
well
gonna
a
say.
valve on and just close off for the time being.
Just to help you, John, especially you, to understand, is that we have one line that feeds up to the water plant or a tank up top, and then it gravity feeds back out into all of the others. So it has
Up the
to,
hill?
yeah, the one that's up here at the top of the hill. So it should be filling up anywhere from 4 to 6 feet an hour, and it's currently filling up at 2 feet an hour.
So the loss is from that pipe?
Well, maybe,
Well-
but it goes through all the trunk lines and stuff. See, it feeds into everything before it ever gets to the water tank. And then, once they quit pumping, it starts gravity feeding back out. So we're only pumping in 2 feet an hour, and we're losing a foot an hour. So we can only go for a certain, overnight, and then we have to go back in and do it again. So that's, we only have the lines that go, it's all the same lines. The ones that goes up and it comes back out, it all is in the same lines. There's not, most places I think have lines that fill it and then other lines that distribute it.
Right.
We're not like that. It goes in, then it comes out. So it's losing water going up and then it's losing water coming back. So that is what we're hoping maybe to identify. So Rural Water has been great about helping us. They've been up here many, many times and listened for water, and they have found leaks, and we've fixed them, and that has taken us down from like 85% water loss here a few years back, but obviously we still have a lot more. And the problem is the age, but we're also rocky. There's so much rocks here, so water doesn't come up to the surface, it might go down, so.
Ideally speaking, we could obtain a grant and we could replace these lines. We don't live in an ideal world.
And all kinds of things are
So we're going to be pursuing that with an eye towards reducing our water making costs. Don't have anything else, I don't believe. Do we have any need to go into closed session for a personnel or hiring discussion? No one?
So,
Is there anything else anybody wants to say, mention, ask questions about? Everybody's good? You good, John?
Good.
All right. All right then. Well, I guess I don't see a need really at this point in time. I don't know that we'll have any major developments. Just as soon as I say that, we probably will have something major. Otherwise, we will adjourn this meeting at 6:06.
wow, this was a quick meeting.